It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas, and we have wonderful guests. And I have a real treat today. I have Lieutenant Colonel in Green Beret, E Raiklin, and I am so happy to have him on, and he will give us some great intel, I am sure. So let me bring him on. Welcome,
I like that.
Ivan.
Grazing on, what did you say, ideas?
Grazing on wild ideas.
Grazing on wild ideas. I'm going to go ahead and post that right now on my X account for people to tune in.
Well, thank you for that.
There, I just posted it. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thanks for inviting me on the show. I love doing shows. Anybody that wants to interview me, please reach out. info@raiklin.com. It's simple.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's some people I'd like to see you on, so I'm going to suggest you to some people too, because they have bigger platforms than I do. I'm working on mine, but it's they took me down, and that hurt really big.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So they basically did that digitally and physically to me, and now, well, we start to go transition from defense into the other side of defense.
Yes. No, I named this the title of this The List, and I don't know if my listening audience knows about what you're doing or so on. So why don't you go ahead and explain that a little bit, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
All right, let me explain for the lemmings and the haters out there that are going to be watching in, because after all the probably about a dozen attack pieces that were done on me yesterday in cadence, in unison, I want to address them specifically.
Okay.
So since, I don't know, it was January, February, I came up with an idea that I kind of am angry at myself for not thinking of it sooner, particularly at about the same time that Elon Musk purchased Twitter. But I didn't kind of know where his stance on everything was, so that had to develop. So I thought to myself, what is the fastest way for the American public to learn about all of the government corruption that I've been witness to, either as a first or second row seat, and then through my investigations, right? And I thought to myself, people go through that list. Well, the DOJ, right? Well, if the DOJ is complicit in that corruption, obviously they're not going to investigate themselves.
Exactly.
So if the government's not going to do it, and then if the Congress is either complicit or just toxic, feckless cowards, then while you can work with some of them, they're still not going to have the courage to go ahead and do what should have been done back in January of last year that Anna Paulina Luna is trying to do today in order to hold Merrick Garland in inherent contempt, so that the Speaker of the House orders his Sergeant-at-Arms, Bill McFarland, to go ahead and detain, arrest, and haul in Merrick Garland and others. So we're moving that Overton window, where we actually have a good chunk of Congress members, maybe even majority, I'm not sure what the vote is yet, on actually doing the maximum allowable under their authority to hold the scum to account. So having said that, I thought to myself, how do I, as a private citizen, what can I do with my background, knowledge, expertise, network, experience, to be able to come up with a strategy to hold these individuals to account? The first phase of holding people to account is that you have to create due process, right? And the due process is, even though they don't provide it to us, all they do is political violence in the form of burning down cities in 2020, or in the form of political assassinations like they did the JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., so on and so forth. They do political violence like they did in 2021, where a U.S. Capitol Police officer murdered Ashley Babbitt, and then a D.C. Metropolitan Police officer murdered again, an unarmed, peaceful election integrity rally attendee by the name of Roseanne Boylan. And so that's the political violence that they're doing. And so it begs the question of, how do we as Americans stop that lawlessness from taking place? Well, the very first thing that has to be done is to educate the country that that's what's going on. And the reason why we have to educate them is because those same individuals that conducted the political violence are the ones that are censoring away the truth of their political violence from being exposed, and instead they push their fake narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so who is in the best position to, at scale, at least nationally in the United States, be able to change the narrative in a substantive way with full receipts behind it to expose these scum? Well, this is when I ventured out with my team to put together what's known as the Deep State Target List. Okay. Now they're trying to frame that list as, oh, they're trying to label me as attempting to do what they already do. And again, they
What?
conduct political violence, right?
They sure do.
I always advocate for legal, moral, ethical, peaceful, and patriotic consequences to the max. Okay. So, under that framework, how do we get there? Phase one, we have to basically monitor what Elon Musk is saying and take him for his word. So when he says on December 10th of 2022 that Twitter is both a social media company and a crime scene, it would be interesting for him to release the crime scene evidence that he's referring to. And so that, coupled with the following day, I believe, he writes in a tweet on December 11th of 2022, his pronouns are arrest /Fauci. Okay.
I can't believe that man
So
is still walking free.
with those two tweets in particular, again, late 2022, by January, when we were basically trying to ensure that Kevin McCarthy would not be the speaker, at least I had a very large role in that through publishing 13 articles in Substack explaining how he would not pass a security clearance if he were to go through a security clearance process, a counterintelligence investigation, a proper one through the executive branch in the national security ecosystem. But he's a politician, so whatever. I wanted to expose that. So fast forward, we change out speakers of the House, and in that process, before we change out Speaker of the House, I was thinking, like, how do we motivate Elon Musk or get on his radar and attention that he's sitting on a trove of evidence that will prove every single criminal conspiracy going back 10 years that Mike Benz is talking about, that Tucker Carlson is talking about, that Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi have started to expose through the Twitter files? How do we get, as a country, the single person that holds the entire evidentiary pool of communications of these seditious co-conspirators, put that all together, and then dump it out for the entire country to see, so that those lemmings that were duped by the very same individuals that are doing the hit pieces on me, how do we expose them for the political violence that they committed? And how do we expose them for the censorship industrial complex? How do we expose them for the illegal spying operations that they've been doing on American citizens, and to the tune of millions of illegal FISA queries on regular American citizens, and so on and so forth? So, with my background in 25 years in the national security ecosystem, culminating in teaching what our national security ecosystem looks like to our up and coming intel analysts in our country, I took that knowledge, expertise, and background, applied it to my personal life and my personal mission, to go ahead and determine who within each agency within our government was responsible for all of these criminal conspiracies going back 10 years, starting in 2014, and then more so, I guess, in 2016, when they launched an illegal spying operation on one of the candidates for president, okay, and a former general that was and still is lauded and is going to go down as the most consequential and most respected general in our nation's history, maybe only second to General George Washington.
Is that Flynn?
Yes, absolutely. I started to scratch the surface, if you will, and started to identify names. So we take a look. In 2016, who within the FBI and the CIA were involved in the illegal spying operation. And so I started to create categories of this list. So we started at the institutional level that people were talking about. Then we started to identify which individuals within those institutions, former and current members, were involved. Then we started to look at which individuals and what date, time, and place they conducted that illegal, at a minimum, constitutional violation of our rights, but more likely than not, the treasonous activity known as, well, I said it, treason. Okay?
It's amazing.
And so the list includes names, or I should say categories, like the 39 individuals within our U.S. government at the time that unmasked illegally General Michael T. Flynn to spy on him. And then we start to see why they did it. One of those names is Jamie Raskin's wife, Sarah Raskin. Sarah Raskin, Jamie Raskin's wife. Reminder, Jamie Raskin then became the impeachment hoax number 2, lead impeachment manager, so that they could start to create 2 narratives. 1, to promote an insurrection, and 2, to cover up the actual Fedsurrection. Okay?
Fedsurrection, I like that. Yeah.
So that's just one name on the list, and another name on that list was dementia patient Chinese Communist Party ambassador to the U.S. that's squatting in our White House. China Joe, right? Manchurian candidate, failed vice president, Joe Biden. He also unmasked General Flynn. So as you start to go into details of that list, well, now that you see the list, you identify the treasonous behavior that they conducted. I've already seen the evidence for myself. That's sufficient for me to convict in the court of public opinion. Now I have to take on the role of trying to get other folks that have bigger platforms to see the same evidence that I've seen, but I have to present it in a very compelling manner so that I can still come out as a credible source articulating this evidence while all of them that are on my list are attacking me. So the way that I thought of how do I make it so that, unknown Ivan Raiklin can break out of the noise on the internet and actually at scale start to educate the country on all these criminal scum. Well, one way to do it is to leverage the systems that are already in place. So when the U.S. House of Representatives opened back up in January of 2023, I leveraged C-SPAN to go ahead and plant myself behind the largest and biggest hearings that will be viewed by the American public, and I'm sitting there as I sit nice and peacefully, patriotically behind the people that are on my list. Starting with, let's name a few. Merrick Garland, Lloyd Austin, Mark Milley, Ali Mayorkas, Christopher Wray, Anthony Fauci, Miss Walensky, Dr. Walensky, right? And so as I sit there peacefully and patriotically behind those individuals, I garner more attention to my content, to the point where a national poison radio reporter comes up to me at a weaponization committee hearing, NPR, National Poison Radio. And so she basically starts to ask me questions, and I happen to turn on my phone's recording, and I record that interaction. And that interaction turns into tens of millions of views. And in that, I explain. I have a list, and it's categorized by 39 that unmasked Flynn, the 51 former, mostly CIA officers that provided cover for the Biden criminal syndicate laptop, right? One of them then resulted in being the staff director for the Mike Pence's beloved Liz Cheney and Nancy Pelosi's beloved Benny Thompson's January 6th Fedsurrection cover-up committee, right?
Yeah.
So I present all the evidence of all these relationships and why they were there and picked. It's pretty evident once you connect the dots of their motivations and goals, where they created a target list, and their target list, this is how they actioned it. They actioned it through political violence. I'll name some examples. They swatted Steve Bannon. They kidnapped Steve Bannon. They went ahead and conducted a armed robbery of Peter Navarro at an airport and kidnapped him. They also did a kidnapping and a live streamed SWAT raid of Roger Stone. They did this. They set the precedent. Okay? So, if that's fine and dandy, and those individuals that conducted that have not been held to account, in fact, the guy that murdered Ashley Babbitt was promoted to captain from lieutenant.
Unbelievable.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the lady, Lila Morris, when I say the guy that murdered Ashley Babbitt, Michael Byrd, U.S. Capitol Police Officer, promoted to captain, and protected by the entire cabal, many listed on my list. And then the lady, Lila Morris, that murdered Roseanne Boylan outside of the Capitol. She was a peaceful, unarmed election justice rally attendee. Lila Morris was sent over to the Super Bowl to be lauded as a brilliant political violent actor on behalf of the cabal, along with a couple of her colleagues. This is what they do to those on their side that conduct political violence. Okay?
Well, okay. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to bring up Antifa and Black Lives Matter as far as political violence.
That's the political violence I'm referring to. Mm-hmm. So these are domestic terrorists, and they should be treated as such, in my humble opinion. I think 100% of the country agrees with that. Now, the bots that they deployed against us obviously aren't going to agree with that. But the first thing that Elon Musk did was remove the bots so that actual humans could engage and interact. And once that happens, guess what? Human beings counter the false narrative and the disinformation promulgated by the bots, right? And the paid actors, paid by, the paid affiliates of the Chinese Communist Party, Biden, right, and his syndicate, and then other subordinate surrogates to the Biden criminal syndicate, amplifying them so that they can create new revenue streams in the form of mutilating yourself and then taking medicine so that you stay stable as you mutilate body parts, lop off your penis, slap on a vagina, and vice versa. And they're trying to promote that, right?
That's insane.
As healthy activity. Anyway, I kind of go on a tangent. Let's get back to the list and the phases that are required in order to be able to create consequences for those that have committed these crimes that are in Elon Musk's holdings within Twitter, as evidenced already by the Twitter files. Okay? So then phase one is you have to expose the jury pool, which is America, to this lawless activity. It was phased. Remove the bots, the fake information, promote the truthful information in a methodical way, and then start to amplify it, and then counter all the lies. So we have a somewhat compliant House of Representatives helping amplify that, and Elon Musk. So then how do we merge those two things together? Well, there needs to be a conduit and a liaison, if you will, Well, I took on that role as the Deep State Marauder, where I'm constantly in the House. I'm constantly in the hearings to amplify those hearings so that more Americans can see what Congress and Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee, Chairman Jordan of the Weaponization and Judiciary, Chairman Mark Green of the Homeland Security Committee, Chairman Brad Wenstrup of the Subcommittee on COVID Select, Chairman of the Oversight Subcommittee on House Administration, Barry Loudermilk, because no one watches those hearings unless there is a witness that is interesting. And if it's not an interesting witness or no one's covering it, then someone from the independent information landscape that has a significant reach and platform needs to be in there amplifying it in the arena. In the absence of anybody else stepping up and doing that, that is where I fill that leadership void, because no one else is stepping in the breach, except for Ashley Babbitt's mother and a wife of one of the politically persecuted political hostages, Nicole Reffitt, and a couple of others. That's really it in terms of those that have stepped into the breach to be leaders in exposing the rot, corruption in our government, and leveraging the House of Representatives and the free media play of C-SPAN, coupled with the social media amplification to get the message out. And then luckily on May 15th of this year, when the National Poison Radio so-called journalist, reporter, approached me, that piece of content got, just on my account alone, 10 million views, and then across all platforms, probably in the tens of millions.
That's fantastic.
I laid out bait that I baited in the radical left mainstream legacy media, which culminated yesterday. And they brilliantly took the bait like clockwork. And it was so glorious, because there's a hit piece on every single major radical left outfit out there, which only now increases my name ID to now be able to explain what I was doing. I was specifically using rhetoric that was borderline, let's just say, spicy, to get them to pay attention and to get them to be a little concerned, okay? And now I get to explain that what they are concerned about is exactly what I'm concerned about. I don't want political violence in the form of live stream swatting raids like you guys did on Roger Stone. That is unacceptable. You must be held to account for that. I don't accept the political violence of basically conducting a armed robbery of Mike Lindell in a Hardee's parking lot. I don't accept political violence when you go and conduct an armed robbery of Congressman Scott Perry, House Freedom Caucus chairman, when you go ahead and seize his phones without any lawful predicate to do so. I don't like political violence when you go after and conduct armed robbery in a parking lot of John Eastman, an attorney of his devices. And the list goes on. I don't like the political violence of, like I said before, of you murdering First Amendment peaceful and unarmed election justice rally attendees. Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan. And so now I get to call you out for it. So now they call me the Secretary of Retribution now. I need to make a couple of corrections to their claim. They say that, when Donald Trump comes back into office, if you listen to my words carefully, my plan is with or without a President Trump. If there is a President Trump, great. I would enlist his participation in helping to create accountability for these lawless actors. It would help, I think, if he was in office.
Yes, it would.
But absent him, like if the people on my list, and make sure that President Trump does not return into office, and you can look at the list, it's about 350 plus people. That's pretty much the network analysis of those that are working very diligently behind the scenes to guarantee Trump does not return into office. Well, if they're successful, I still want to create a mechanism within our nation that is able to then hold those people to account. And that includes enlisting the American public to understand that their activity and behavior is unacceptable. And those Americans that consume and understand this through training and advising them, that they need to lean on their counties, law enforcement entities, their state law enforcement entities, to then work with Elon Musk to release the mother of all Twitter files that showcases this seditious criminal conspiracy of all those listed on the, well, probably all the listed on the list,
And then some.
and then take that geolocated data, and then some, absolutely, take that geolocated data associated with their Twitter DMs, because many of them have Twitter accounts, and showcase the communications that they had within their Twitter DMs, between those Twitter accounts and those names with employees at Twitter 1.0, namely Jim Baker of the FBI, former general counsel, who was the number 2 lawyer at Twitter 1.0. And then more broadly, look at the emails, the internal Slack channels, and those direct messages of the Twitter accounts to then, in the collective, produce a list by category that I provided with all the communications that support them being on my list, but then furthermore supports them being collating that information, and then determine where those communications took place by jurisdiction and provide that evidence to the appropriate law enforcement entities throughout the country. For example, name the county of the 3,143 county and county equivalents where that criminal action took place. So then you provide your
Maricopa.
then you provide your evidence to the sheriff, the DA, and you publicly disclose it. Maybe you do a targeted ad for every single person that has an account, or you do a targeted campaign for that county, all the residents, to let them know this former or current federal actor conducted treason in your county, or whatever crime it is, the face toileting, the forced face toileting, which is child asphyxiation, child abuse, child neglect, right? Child mutilation, when you forced a mask or a clot shot on someone.
Yep.
And then you start to motivate your citizenry to demand that their law enforcement at the county level conduct exactly in a legal, moral, ethical, due process sort of fashion the most peaceful and patriotic experience of that defendant's life. One example of that is what they did to Roger Stone. Another example of that could be what they did to Peter Navarro. Another example could be what they did to Steve Bannon. Yet another example could be what they did to Scott Perry, John Eastman, Mike Lindell, or what they did to Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Mike Pence. Those are the range of options. But I don't ever advocate for them to do what was done by Michael Byrd to Ashley Babbitt. I don't advocate for the list to be actioned just like when Nancy Pelosi covered up for Michael Byrd's murder of Ashley Babbitt. That's political violence to the extreme. I don't want that to occur, but there is a legal process to hold those individuals to account to the max. And that's what I'm calling for, is maximum accountability based on authority. And if there's not enough people, because there's going to be so many people exposed in this process, if there's not enough law enforcement at the county and state level to action all of these individuals, as part of my conversation, I say, hey, through the legal process of deputization that certain jurisdictions have to deputize citizens after they're trained, advised, equipped, and deputized legally, there are tens of thousands of us that have the training already We would just need a little bit of the legal framework so that we're making sure that we are properly supporting that law enforcement entity within a, say, the jurisdiction, to be able to assist with the proper legal, moral, and ethical culmination of when you have enough evidence to arrest someone. And I'm talking about the tens of thousands of us that were unlawfully thrown out of the military
Yes.
because they forced us into an experimental product, or tried to, known as the DNA mutilation injection,
Yep.
the myocarditis making heart exploding product.
Right.
So
And
I've
testicle
laid out the
exploding
plan.
too.
I've laid out that plan, and they don't like it that I am talking to Jim Comer and Jim Jordan and every other person that has the appropriate jurisdiction that would be in a position to do so. Now, whether or not they implement this play, again, it's the most legal, moral, and ethical, peaceful, and patriotic play in our country's history. I can't coerce others. I mean, that would be kind of extortion, right? I can only, in the court of public opinion, create First Amendment sounds that, to this point, tens of millions of people support. So now we wait on Elon Musk for around September 3rd or so to go ahead and, from now until then, put together the most brilliant, beautiful piece of artwork known as the mother of all Twitter files. And maybe he works with Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, whom I've communicated with, to lay that out. And I don't even need to be part of the equation. I'll just keep making my First Amendment peaceful and patriotic, legal, moral, and ethical First Amendment protected sounds.
It's absolutely critical that we have that First Amendment. I mean, we might as well give up if we don't. That is.
So phase one, they're afraid. That's why the hit pieces. You know what? Can I quote one of the things?
Oh, sure. Please do.
They even said, I put out, if you go to my X account, you can see exactly how I've been responding. So some of these hit pieces, individuals that are complicit, and they're on my list. So they reach out to Jamie Raskin for a comment. And Jamie Raskin says, oh, he's calling on Speaker Johnson and Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to denounce political violence. I'm like, great. We agree on something, Jamie Raskin. Let's agree that you need to stop the political violence of murdering people. You, Jamie Raskin, need to stop the political violence of going after your political opponents. Okay? So, I don't know if you're frozen. Hello?
What? You're fine. I'm hearing you. Oh, now he's gone. He'll be back, though, I'm sure. Okay. Okay.
I don't know
back.
what happened there. You froze for a second.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Well.
What? I don't know if I froze. Did I?
No, you didn't. At least not that I noticed.
Anyhow, just to summarize everything I said to this point, I had to create First Amendment sounds that would draw them in.
Right.
They came in and they took it hook, line, and sinker when they deployed that National Poison Radio girl, and then subsequently started reporting on it through raw sewage. I mean, some people pronounce it raw stupid. I think the publication, probably raw sewage is the proper pronunciation. And some of these other ones, and I suspect that maybe New Oak Slimes and Washington Compost may jump into the mix with the pylon, but maybe not, because it is so damning. Like when they bring my name ID up, if they're in this dilemma, because my name ID is sufficient enough that if they conduct what they've been doing to Roger Stone and Peter Navarro and all those on me, it only forces people to look at my work, right? My body of work. at scale,
True.
millions,
They used
which
to
then
say,
exposes them even more.
yeah,
So then they're in this precarious position of they can only attempt to discredit me, because if they just let me go, they tried to censor me, and they did, and they bought time. 4 years they bought time, so they censored me off of all the different platforms. Then they physically started to surveil and censor me. But after all these investigations, as I call it out, and they can't find anything on me, they're in this precarious position of, like, if you're the enemy, I'm saying them,
mm-hmm.
what can you do to Ivan? You got to do the cancel culture thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
they're good at
as
that.
long as Elon and as long as you allow me to talk to you on your, you guys decide if I'm going to be on your platform, right? And if you think my content's compelling, by all means, I am on a rampage in the most peaceful and patriotic way to go ahead and express and expose why. Like, let's take a look at the list and let's determine why they're on the list. The purpose and intent of my list is to illuminate those individuals, what institutions they work for, their names, and what they did by category. And then for other people to fact check and law check and do a check on everything that I provided to determine whether or not I'm saying is true or not. Guess
This is a,
what? That's kind of what critical thinking is.
yeah, fact checking. I call it censorship. That's what it is. They're not checking facts, because I've seen facts that they checked that were true that they said weren't true.
So
So their fact
I
checking is
revel in
censorship.
the attacks. It's just absolutely beautiful and brilliant. They took the bait, and I'm thankful that they're, you know, luckily I still have, so far, knock on wood, I have a little bit more IQ points than the double digits that most of these folks have, and so we'll keep making a laughing stock out of them. I don't know what to say.
You know what they say in Hollywood, or I was told, they say every knock is a boost, and that's exactly what's happening. So when they talk bad about you, all it does is make more people look at what you're saying. And that's really critical, because one of the problems I think that we have is the American public is not educated about any of this. They think,
Yeah, so I'm all over, right? So I don't. They're coming up with these bombshells like, oh, we've just exposed the list. You know what? I sent that to Elon. I sent it to Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Comer, Loudermilk, Johnson. Who else? Comer. All these people, right? But the thing is that they haven't yet acted on it, or have they? That's for the American public to decide as things start to trickle out. Keep in mind that the last couple of Twitter files releases by Michael Schellenberger, guess what? He is exposing exactly the same people on my list. Laura Loomer, take a look at her Twitter feed. It was either today or yesterday. Huh. Who did she go into in-depth detail of? The first 17 of the 51? Spies who lied? Well, she didn't quite get to the point where she exposed David Buckley, who's on that list. He's the guy that the Uniparty cabal decided to put as the staff director for the January 6th cover-up committee in the 117th Congress.
I
See,
am so
I've
angry.
already done all this. I'm just trying to drag Congress and the rest of the American public to understand that, like, these guys need to be held to account, and then America will decide on what that looks like. I'm just telling folks that I'm ready, willing, and able to be deputized. Now, should that call for me to be deputized to action these folks? For example, if the inherent contempt vote passes today in Congress for Merrick Garland, I'm 15, 20 minutes away. I can go ahead and kit up and be deputized by this House Sergeant at Arms to volunteer to be the first guy in the stack as we go in and conduct the physical detention of Merrick Garland, whether it be in his office in D.C. at the Department of Justice, or whether it be at his home in Maryland. I'm not advocating for anything outside of normal legal process that is done by law enforcement.
Well, we do
I'm
have
just
some.
specifying what the process looks like. And then as I specify what the process looks like and why it should happen, everyone listening in starts to demand that it happens. And
That's what's
that's
going to
why they
happen.
squirm.
That's going to happen because the biggest problem here is the American people have not known because they've been brainwashed and poisoned, and that certainly affects their thinking. Um, but there are those, at least some, that have been able to overcome that or get past that, and they are in the process of educating, like yourself, educating other people, finding out what's really going on. And these representatives are not doing anything for the American people. They're doing everything for illegal immigrants, for themselves, and for so-called foreign countries. I think that they actually, the foreign aid is more aid to themselves than anything else. Not to
Yeah, I
mention that,
mean, 10% of that aid has to go to the big guy. 1 or 2% has to go to Mitch McConnell PAC. Another 1 or 2% has to go to Chuck Schumer PAC. And then the other 1 or 2% has to go to Nancy Pelosi PAC and Kevin McCarthy PAC.
and I heard Zelensky's wife, right after they got the aid that they got, just bought like
They're
a
in D.C. today.
$4.5 million car. Isn't that nice?
I'm not sure about that, but I mean,
Yeah.
possible.
Well,
But
maybe it's, yeah.
he's begging for more money because he knows
I
he has
think
to get
we,
more. They have to pay him more money for ransom if he's going to avoid exposing the Biden criminal syndicate as that relates to their 10% for the big guy operation in Ukraine. Yep, yep. So it's
I
up to us. I mean, it's up to us, right? Everybody's captured. There's only a few in Congress that I'm working with because they are, they have exhibited signs of courage. Anna Paulina Luna obviously has exhibited maximum courage as she's been pushing forward. She was able to do that because Matt Gaetz paved the way by removing a complicit uniparty actor known as Kevin McCarthy. So God bless him for doing that. And now we move on to there's a few of them out there, and there's enough of them out there when they work with us as we expose it. And with Elon Musk, with these other platforms such as Getter, Rumble, Truth, Telegram, you started listing them off right before we started recording.
yeah.
We don't have to rely on Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg's complicit with the old fraud cheese of the world, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of think this through. If Elon Musk's pronouns are arrest Fauci, then his next pronoun that he should probably transition to is going to be arrest Mark Zuckerberg because he probably sees
Please.
the communications, right? There's a lot of communications, emails that are within Twitter holdings that can be sifted through in the proper legal, moral, and ethical way. Maybe it doesn't have to come out in the form of a mother of all Twitter files where it's just raw release. But Elon Musk can work with the appropriate committees, whether it's Oversight Comer, Weaponization and Judiciary with Jim Jordan, as it applies to the Fedsurrection with Loudermilk and his team, in order to come up with a mechanism of an appropriate release of exposing all the seditious conspiracy, geotag it so that appropriate attorneys general and county law enforcement officials can go ahead and lawfully action those targets. And you're going
Wow.
to see that I only helped them out by basically saying, hey, here's the list of who you should illuminate and look into. And if there's nothing there, Elon, then guess what? They're not going to be part of the mother of all Twitter files release. But those that are, guess what? It would be not convenient. It would be very appropriate to put that out so that we can restore a constitutional republic to some semblance of law and order. Using Elon's own tweets and language. Make crime illegal again. He's saying.
Really.
So let's do
Exactly.
that. Let's make crime illegal again. Let's go ahead and clear up the election system. He's been tweeting about that over the last few days. And then let's go ahead and, as he mentioned, I think it was yesterday, let's go ahead and motivate attorneys general to go ahead and prosecute these folks.
That needs to happen. That's one of the biggest things that I hear back from listeners of the show is why isn't anything done? Nothing ever happens. They can do whatever they want and they get away with it. And that is what's been happening over there.
Yeah, and then rather than trying to do a FOIA or reach out to the classified information that they classified in the executive branch or in the government or FOIA the government, we're going nowhere. Elon Musk is sitting on the trove of, not all, about a third of the people on the list have Twitter accounts. I'm going to name some. So some of the individuals mentioned as sources for these hit pieces on me is a gal by the name of Julie Farnham. She was the deputy director. She was the deputy of Intel and Interagency Coordination Division at U.S. Capitol Police on January 6th. That didn't provide the intelligence that there would be, that would have been the intelligence that the former Capitol Police chief could have used to convince Pelosi to allow him to protect the Capitol. They deliberately wanted the Capitol breached, right? And it was her boss, Sean Gallagher, that previously had spent quite a bit of time as the head of dignitary protection, meaning he protected all the senior leaders, both parties. So that means he has dirt on both sides of the aisle. And so he was the one that protected, I should say, only provided the intelligence to Chuck Schumer's head of security, right? So as you start to like dig and scratch like I've done over thousands and maybe tens of thousands of hours, they don't want somebody like me looking into them.
Exactly.
Because it exposes them. You know, the whole adage, when you have I'm the magnifying glass, right? The Deep State Marauder, whatever you want to say, I am America's magnifying glass. I identify the ant, known as the person on my list, and then I try to place the magnifying glass in the perfect position between the ant and the sun.
I like that. That's a good one. Okay.
And that's it. And then I'm trying to get people to observe as I, get it focused in properly.
Why do they think that if the truth about the 2020 election comes out, that's going to cause a war? Or why isn't that brought to light? I heard the watermark ballot.
Wait,
Yeah.
so you're asking me why isn't the FBI director Chris Wray holding to account his own foreign influence task force section chief Laura Demlow? Why isn't he stopping her from coordinating with her senior supervisory intelligence analyst Brian Otten, from coordinating with the FBI's field office in San Francisco, Joe Pientka and Elvis Chan, as they coordinate with Twitter 1.0 number 2 lawyer Jim Baker, whom they all worked with when he was the general counsel at the FBI? Why isn't Chris Wray telling all of them to stop the censorship industrial complex so that they actually allow for clear information to come out that the 2020 election was abjectly illegal across 39, at a minimum 39 states? Why isn't Chris Wray allowing for the truth to come out about the the unsafe and ineffective clot shots? It's because the official fact checker for Twitter 1.0 was Reuters. Remember that British outfit, the disinformation purveyor? Reuters? Wow. You heard of that one, right?
I can't, yeah.
Reuters. I think it's pronounced Reuters, but there is no D in the spelling. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Of that outfit. And so Reuters, the official fact checker for Twitter 1.0, the CEO of Reuters was on the board of Pfizer.
Oh, wow.
So now you know why everyone was censored and canceled. When they said, hey, I just died from the clot shot. Oh, I just had a heart explosion from the clot shot. Oh my God, I can't breathe. I'm starting to twitch from the clot shot. My DNA is mutilated. No, because the official fact checker told you can't say that because it cut into their sales.
That's why my YouTube got taken down. Yeah, that's
now you know why your CommuTube account was taken down.
Exactly.
Now you guys know why my Hodge Twins interview was taken down.
They took that one down. That was a good one.
The only one of all the interviews that the Hodge Twins have done, I think, that they posted on CommuTube, that was censored out. That means, just like Tucker says, you don't silence false information. You don't censor it. You only go after truthful information.
Wow.
So I suggest people to watch that epic 3-hour journey, which is only scratching the surface of my knowledge of all these deep state scum. I have a dossier on every single one of them.
I bet you do. And you have one on Fauci, right? Because I have a dossier on him. If you don't have it, I'll
I
send
mean,
it to you.
everybody does. I refer you to read good old. I mean, probably the best book is going to be RFK Jr.'s book on the real Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, that's.
And so you can see why he should be addressed, serviced as part of the list by Elon Musk's release of the mother of all Twitter files. So I want to
Come
see
on,
the
Elon.
evidence. Elon, please provide the evidence that you have and why you labeled Twitter as a crime scene that resulted in your pronouns to change to arrest Fauci. Please. And do that
Please,
around
Elon.
September 3rd, because that would be perfect.
Yes, please,
It'll be right
Elon.
after the RNC and DNC conventions, and it'll be right after the Labor Day weekend. Everybody's coming back from summer vacation, recess, and it's just before two main things: the Judge Mershon sentencing hearing, and which will basically cause that to flop, and then number two, it's before early voting starts. And the last thing, if I may say, that mother of all Twitter files released in September, please,
Yeah.
will motivate America to demand that their state legislatures hold a vote on November 5th, 2024, to allocate their presidential and vice presidential electors by the state legislature as per Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, which will make sure that then avoids any illegals from voting, any retail wholesale fraud, digital manipulation fraud, software fraud, foreign interference, illegals voting. I said that twice. Basically, it stops all forms of illegal shenanigans in the upcoming election when we compel the state legislatures across the 50 states to hold a roll call vote in the form of what we saw when they vote for Speaker of the House. They stand up and vote, and on live TV, one day, in person, voice vote, not even hand counted, seen live on TV. And we know who's a registered Democrat and a registered Republican when a state legislative body votes. And as that's on live TV, as that's live streamed on X, do you think that a Republican is going to vote for someone other than the Republican nominee?
That's what I don't understand. I both would.
I think when you put them out on blast publicly, they will have to vote for the Republican nominee so that they don't face the wrath of their constituents at the state legislative level. And if everyone votes by political party registration, then guess who secures more than 270 electoral votes? The Republican nominee, because Republican there's a majority Republican state legislatures throughout the country right now when you allocate those electors. That's how we solve everything.
Someone's asking, will the tribunals be broadcast on TV? People want to see it.
I would love to see, in the interest of transparency, Elon, I think that would be appropriate. And X should be one of those platforms. Rumble should be one of those platforms. Once the
Maybe
live
we should
stream capability
encourage.
happens on Truth, when we have that capability, Telegram, Gab, if they would increase their capability for live streaming. I mean, we could live stream it everywhere.
Getter, yeah.
Getter,
Very
yeah,
true.
thank you.
Yeah. I just.
That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I would like to ask you if this is one area that we haven't really covered yet, and there are a lot of people that are need to be educated about it because Americans just don't believe it, and that is this child trafficking. Now, I have information in front of me just to read off how many children are missing in every country. Okay.
Yeah.
It
So
starts.
before we go into too deep on this, I
Okay.
do have a hard stop, and I don't mean to avoid this subject, but the subject matter expert on this subject is one of the board members on America's Future. I also sit on that board as of recently. So Mary Flynn is the executive director, and then one of the board members, Laura Logan,
Oh,
who
Laura Logan.
is,
Okay.
if you want to speak with her, I'd be happy to make the connection to see if
Oh,
she's
please.
available to discuss this topic. But
Yes.
there was just a hearing 2 days ago, which I attended in the Senate, where I believe 6, maybe 7 members of the Senate listened to whistleblowers within the Department of Homeland Security showcasing how child trafficking is basically being supported and fomented by our own government,
That's what
which
I
is
mean.
absolutely disgusting. And then
Yes.
there was a press conference afterwards that was done at the National Press Club. And again, I am not the subject matter on this particular topic. I would refer you to Laura Logan, who's an amazing investigative journalist of the highest order. And her work is unmatched, unparalleled. And on this particular issue, she is
Um,
definitely the one to speak with.
I would love to have you make that connection because I would love to have her on because when I look at the list of children that go missing and you compare it from one country to the next, the United States is way, way, way far ahead of everybody else. I mean, we're talking
It's unfortunate. I mean,
800,000.
unfortunate is not the right word. It is absolutely disgusting the level of corruption our government is involved in. That is yet another separate crime. A lot of people ask me about that and why aren't people that are involved in that on my deep state target list? It's because my list would be in, I wouldn't have enough time to add people. My focus is specifically on those that committed treason that had national impact. While this is impact on families, on children of the highest order, it doesn't reach the threshold of a absolute like infrastructural destruction of our constitutional order. That's where I kind of draw the line.
Okay.
And I'm glad we have people that like Laura Logan, like America's Future, I mean, and many others that are out there making sure that we expose this and stop it from occurring, the child trafficking. I
Right.
absolutely support it.
There's just way too much complicitness among law enforcement and our politicians and so on that it's very disturbing just to even think. Because after I know more than I'd like to know about what they do and to these children, and it just I just want to take them out myself, but I can't. But anyway, it's just so horrific what they do. So I will definitely try to get a hold of Laura
All right.
Logan about that. That
Well,
would be
thank
great.
you for having me on. I appreciate you. Hopefully, folks will take a look, more detail of the hit pieces, and as you read through them, keep in mind that the people that made the hit pieces on me, are the ones on my list because they're squirming. Whether
Mhm.
it's Jamie Raskin, whether it's Julie Farnham, whether it's Alexander Vindman, the traitor that concocted that first impeachment hoax with his whistleblower buddy Eric Ciaramella, these are all the same individuals. They're trying to use their media allies, quote, media allies, to
Yeah,
come after me to discredit me, all in the name of protecting themselves. Well, the cat's out of the bag, folks. You're only helping amplify my message, and so I got to tell them thank you.
exactly.
Keep
So yeah,
keep the attack pieces coming, and more people will do their critical thinking and listen to
every
both
knock is a
sides.
boost. Every
And I'm
knock is
that
a
other
boost.
side. Yeah,
And that will get the information out there. And that's what we need
bring it.
more of that more of that kind of thing. Right on target. So thank you so much for being here. Please read what I sent you in the private chat. I know you're very busy, but I just like you to know about it. But anyway,
Thank you.
at some point, I don't know if we could do a future one. I wanted you to define the difference between.
A
Um,
man and a woman. It's pretty simple.
yeah, no, that wasn't it. But the constitutional republic versus the corporate constitution, and how it impacts people as well as Chevron deference. So maybe at another uh, time we could do something like
Yeah,
that.
let's coordinate that offline. Thank you. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Hope you enjoy this. Please support the program. Please like, share, get this information out there. Send it around to everybody you know. This is the problem. The American public needs to be educated. You are by watching this show. So share it. Share. And they do shadow ban me. So it's important that you share this. Okay? And this man is on top of it. And let's get behind him and help him out. So thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon. I think I have Jenny Lee next week on Tuesday, and I don't remember the rest of my schedule. But anyway, keep watching. It all goes live, and stay in the light, shine your light, and share this information. It's critical. Our time is short. Save the human race. And with that being said, I'll see you next time.
We have found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than ever. Never say never. Don't look back now, don't look back now. Rise up, stand with each other. We are sisters and brothers, fighting our place and running the race. We'll take our chance and seize the moment. Hold on tight and don't let go of all your hopes and dreams that light the way. We control our fate. Destiny awaits. We are all the actors in the stories we create. Hope will be our guide. We'll no longer hide. When we roll like thunder, feel the wonder from inside. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us.